Hey there, welcome back to my gothic grotto. I'm Thorn, I use he, him, his, and this is episode 11 of the Midnight Ballroom podcast. Just in case we've forgotten, Briar Rose is my co-goat. It's a little beanie baby goat with, he looks blue in this light, but he's more green than he looks. You can see that his horns are green. Well, they look turquoise, but they're kind of yellow. I have my ring light set to blue light, so that's why. Yeah, he's my co-goat, and I've been filming several videos that are not on this channel, like, or for the podcast. So he does sit in the background for those, but he's not the co-host co-goat for those. So I think he's glad to be back in the saddle, back on the mountain path or something. Do you crave that mineral, like the meme from Tumblr? So a lot has happened in the last couple weeks. Why don't I go somewhat chronologically? So at the end of April, I went up to visit my chosen brother and fellow Vicaro in the Bay Area, Brian. They wrote this book, and the Vicaro path is part of our pagan path. Basically, it's an ancient monastic order set in, or that was originally from Minoan Bronze Age Crete. And this is based on personal gnosis. So I want to be clear, it's not like concrete history or lore or archaeology. Although those, I think Brian did do a lot of research into those to help correlate what they were getting from the gods and spirits. But this is a book of like stories recovered through spiritual means. So yeah, but we're both modern day Vicaro. We were invited to initiate into the path about a year apart and unbeknownst to each other by our shared gods. And so April 30th was my 1 year anniversary of being Vicaro, so I went up there because I wanted to have some time away from my home situation, which is not great, as I've mentioned before. I just don't want to go into it right now. And I wanted to be around people who would get it and, like, not only not make me feel ashamed about it, but also like get it, because they're also on that path or similar paths. So I took the Greyhound up to the Bay Area. I live in Los Angeles, and it was an all-night ride. So it wasn't actually that bad. Like I was like, oh, what will happen? Like I wasn't like, oh no, the Greyhound's unsafe. But I was just like, I've never done this before, and I'm kind of nervous. Actually, I did do it once before for just a smaller trip, but that had been years ago. But it went fine. The return trip was really hard because my legs were really sunburned, and they scheduled me for not only overnight, but also from 1 p.m. the day before the overnight trip. So, like, we went from the San Anselmo area up to San Francisco, up to Sacramento, and had a long layover, and then came down here. It was terrible. Also, I was like really grief stricken about having to leave because the Bay Area feels like my home. Like, energetically, emotionally, it's just, oh yeah, this is what being in a truly restful and freeing area feels like, when your spirit is just in tune with, the land and the water around you. I've never felt that before, and except when I went up to visit Brian the first time on Halloween. But yeah, I know that Gwyn, my patron god, has been doing a lot of work behind the scenes to like make a place for me, like, spiritually there, with the spirits that inhabit the land. I'm not so much talking about like the local. I'm sure that he's making sure that it's all cool with the local spirits too, but like, I don't want to overstep into a spirituality that isn't mine. So like, I'm mostly talking about the version of my gods that I feel in the land around me. Though I also do try to honor the local spirits. But yeah, so I drove up there. I rode the bus up there, and I was really happy on the way up, because I don't know, I was just filled with joy to be going there, to be seeing Brian in person, and to be celebrating something about my Vicaro path. I did some crochet on the bus, not as much as I thought I would do, but it's kind of funny. Gwyn told me that he would get me a good seat on the bus, and so when I was going on to my second bus, the long-term one, I was going to sit on one row, and then I heard him say, no, take the next one. So I was like, okay, I don't know if I'm hearing him correctly or just like that's my own thoughts coming into my mind, because it can be hard to tell sometimes. But I'm getting better at discerning. So I did, and it was perfect, because that was the one seat that had, this is going to sound bad, but it was actually good. It was a broken light, so the cap of the light was broken, so there was no way to turn it off, but someone had put blue tape over it, so it just faintly shone through. I had been worried that if I turned on the light, people around me on the bus would be annoyed. But I wanted to have light to crochet, so this way it wasn't my fault. The light was just broken, so I was able to have some light to crochet. So I was happy about that. And there's a lot of spiritual stuff that happened. I'm not sure if I can go into much of that, much less all of it. But I did mark some really important moments. The crochet pattern I'm working on is called Sacred Moment, because I was working on it up there. I might talk more about that later. It's for my current foray into wearable patterns is doing a crochet version of a poet or a pirate shirt, like the floofy white shirt that you see guys wearing with the gathered sleeves at the wrist, and not the version with the ruffles. My favorite version is the one that has the V-neck and then the lacing up. That's what I want to wear in my gothic wardrobe, so I thought, well, I don't like sewing, so I may as well try to crochet one, and then I could sell that pattern. So But yeah, there will be lots more crochet news later. But anyway, I had a couple of days just to myself because Brian's family wasn't able to hang out right away, and we'd planned this ahead of time. But I had this beautiful Airbnb that was it was just so gorgeous and restful, and after being on the bus all night, it was great to just lie down and then walk a couple blocks to the Safeway. So I got some groceries, and then I went to get coffee, and I was just like, wow, I already feel like I live here. So, like I'm doing fine. My ex kind of made me feel like I didn't know how to shop for groceries, but I did fine. And and the hills around were these beautiful, like, rugged wooded hills with some houses on them, I think. And it felt a lot like the hills to the west here. Well, California has a lot of hills that are just really beautiful. So it felt like the hills I'd grown up next to, but it also felt like, but these are connected to a place where I can be home and free and, safe and truly be myself. So that was great. Then after a couple days, I checked out of my Airbnb and went to hang out for a day with Brian's family, and we went to the beach. That's why I got sunburned. And my nose is still red. Like, it doesn't hurt anymore, but this was on May 1st, and it's now May 19th, so like it was an intense sunburn. My legs got the worst of it. It it was hard to get into bed for a while because I couldn't put any pressure on my calves. No, my shins. Yeah. But it was fun to be shirtless on the beach for the first time. And oh right, we were celebrating Brian's daughter's birthday, so a lot of the a lot of friends of the family were there, and that was awesome. I realized how much I'd missed the ocean. I'd been a couple of days before this, I'd been discussing with some friends in the modern Minoan pagan path some stuff about what kind of area of the world people tend to be energetically aligned with, and some people are land people, some people are water people. So that's the basic gist of it. But I realized, oh yeah, I've always been connected to the sea and to other bodies of water, so it felt really good to be back at the ocean. I hadn't been there for a long time, and I've always related to the elves in Lord of the Rings, where they have this deep longing for the sea that calls to them. Like, that's me. So yeah, I don't think I've been at the sea since my Vicaro initiation last year, and actually it's been way longer than that. It has been hard, but there's been other things that have been taking my mind away from that have been even harder. Leaving an abusive marriage, dealing with my situation here. It's a lot. So my second Airbnb, I just basically crashed in and for one night, and then I had to check out really early, which was hard because I was sunburned and tired and like really sad about leaving. So and I didn't have my best leaving until several hours later. So I just hung out in a coffee shop. Ooh, and I bought an oracle deck, which I can show in a minute. Um, but oh yeah, that night after we came back from the beach, I got to talk with Brian um, at their house and just like have one of our deep chats about magical, like mystical, the Vicaro things about ancient gods, and we drank tea in the yurt they have in their garden. I didn't know what a yurt was until I encountered theirs. It's a small building with like some sacred stuff in it. I don't want to say more than that, but like we just sat there and hung out, and it was awesome. And I can't wait to do more of that when I get to move up there. Um, that the Bay Area is my home. I I know. Um, and since I don't really have, I don't know yet where I'm going to live, though I'm working on that along with my own income. But the only building, like living place that feels like home up there is their house. So if being there always feels like home when I'm there. Um, Coffee break. This mug has the Grand Canyon on it because it reminds me of a really cool trip in which I sort of reclaimed the idea of doing what I wanted to do instead of the family vacation time that was really burning me out. And oh, I didn't think about this when I chose the mug, but speaking of traveling, like doing travel that I want to do, travel's kind of been spoiled for me, and in some ways, because growing up I was traveling with people who were not fun to travel with. Um, One of my family members is often not fun to be around, and that increases on road trips. So, um, and then I had more of the same, but even more terrifying. With my ex, a lot of their shenanigans would happen while we were waiting for the bus late at night or something like that, where in an area I didn't know very well, and yeah, it was it was really scary. Glad I'm not with them anymore. So, it was nice to know. Yeah, I can be okay and keep myself safe and do what I want to do, and I'm fine. It's nice to be in a situation where I can treat myself as competent and expect other people to. And I can't wait to be in that situation all the time. Um, yeah. My other coffee mug, which was going to be my primary one, but I didn't have room for this one up there, is my red glazed mug with the face on it. Because red is the color of Gwyn's Minoan face. He's told us through Gnosis that he's one of the gods in the Minoan pantheon as well. Gwyn, of course, is a Welsh name. But you can't pin him down. He's just all over the place. So right, I could go ahead and tell you about my Oracle deck that I got. I was going to visit a Witchy bookstore, but it wasn't open yet. So I was like, well, may as well go back to the other bookstore, which did have some tarot decks. So I was like, yes, I guess it's time to buy something. I've been prompted to start doing ancestor work, so that's what this deck is going to be for. It's the Lantern Oracle, and this image really spoke to me. I don't know how to describe it, but it's a female figure looking at you over her shoulder, and she's a person of color, maybe like Southeast Asian. I'm not quite sure, or I want to say somewhere in the Asia or like Pacific Islander region of cultures. She has long brown hair, and she's holding a spear maybe, and like has a couple of armbands, and she's surrounded by red flowers. Oh, and this is by Angelina Mirabito. Angelina Mirabito, and illustrated by Yuly Alejo. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right. I also stutter, which is separate from mispronunciation. Like sometimes I know how to pronounce something, I just can't get it out. It's hard to explain to people, but it is a separate thing in my brain. That's why I was looking frustrated. But I've been having fun getting to know that deck. I also got a Mermaid bookmark. I feel like there's been lots of like mermaid stuff going on for me right now. This one is a red-haired mermaid with a green tail, surrounded by fish, in a very like watercolor style. Oh, and the bookmark has this green tassel with a green gem. They're on my ancestor altar, actually, that I started just now. Or not just now, but like, I felt like it was good to have it right next to where I work, both with the podcast and just in general, because my computer's here, my yarn is here, and there, and there. And my bed's right there. It's a very small space, but yeah, the other thing that happened while I was up there was Calan Mai, which is the 1st of May. That's a Welsh name for the holiday. That's when I observe the annual fight of my patron, who I know as the Winter King, with his rival, the Summer King. And so my patron dies for the summer. And like, I experience him as with me all year round, but it does change during the summer, and I still feel that grief and of kind of his death and absence, even though he's here. It's hard to explain, but that was actually happening during the day when I was hanging out with Brian's family, so I could tell that Gwyn was keeping my thoughts away from that and not wanting me to like spiritually like look at what was happening for him with that fight. We did have a moment at sunset, as we often do on May 1st, when things kind of change over, and he goes into what I think of as his undead phase. The first year I was with him during May 1st, we kind of decided that a fitting song for that time of year was Bela Lugosi's Dead. Except I sometimes when it comes up on my playlist, I'll sing it. Gwynapneve is dead. Undead, undead, undead. And like all of the lyrics just kind of, they're really fun and goth. Also, they sound like things that he would like, to me at least. I'll be one of the virginal brides filing past his tomb. Anyway, so I am a god spouse of his, so we are married. We're gay married, but like, yeah. Yeah, god spouse being just someone who's married to a deity, and nothing fancy really. I mean, it can be fancy, but just like how nuns are married to Jesus. Some of them anyway. I'm not sure. I don't. I really like monasticism of all forms, and I've been learning more about it recently. But like, I'm pagan, so I don't know the traditions of other monastics very well. And I didn't grow up Catholic, so I grew up Protestant. Fundy evangelical, so that was not fun. I'll be right back. I'm gonna go get another mermaid. Speaking of crochet stuff, I finished my mermaid graphgan. This is the one based on Lady of Seafoam, and this is just a giant blanket crocheted of my pixel art of the mermaid, who's a person of color, and she has green hair and green arm warmers and a green tail, and she's looking to the side. And she has visible nip-nops. So I'm just gonna show you real quick, but this is your warning about that part of the image. So if I can see from behind, yeah, I can kind of see through the blanket that this is a safe part to show you. But yeah, I'm so proud of her. And I can't wait to do more of these. I did the border, not, this is separate from the chart, which I put in my shop now. The crochet version of this chart, along with a couple others, and I'm going to be updating more, focusing on the Pride-themed pixel arts, the Pride-themed crochet charts, because that's what's coming up. And that gives me something to focus on, and then I can do the rest of them later. But this border is an example of it's the same border that I did a tutorial for over on my Thornwing Crochet channel, so go check that out. It's the Mystery Lace 175, which was I thought it was a fun title. Like, you're like, wait, what does that mean? 175 laces? What? but you'll find out what it means if you watch the thing. So I wasn't expecting that to be like blanket size, but it is very cuddly. It is kind of narrow though, so next time after my planned Gwyn pixel art graphgan, which I'm also going to make with the same batch of yarn, different colors, but I got a bunch of yarn from like Red Heart, Big Twist, and Premier. So after that, I will probably choose a couple of my pixel arts that are the same size, or the same height, and combine them so they're more blanket size and not just like long. But it's cool that they're actually really versatile. I told people, yeah, depending on the yarn you use, you could do them on a tote or on a pillowcase. I think that if you did a group of stitches as one pixel, like maybe 4 single crochet for every pixel, you could make it really big, but that would take a long time and it would require like you have to be on it with the counting and the math. Which is hard, but it's interesting how I'm apparently pretty good at it from what most people expect. Like people are impressed when they see how quick I'm doing mine and how good I am at it, which surprised me. Like I did notice, hey, I'm getting done with these quicker than I thought. And also it's not horribly difficult for me, but also like just seeing that outside reaction is cool because it gives me a different perspective, and I'm like, oh, maybe that's one of my superpowers. Like the autistic superpower idea. It's certainly one of my special interests and hyper focuses. So yeah. So there, I did say there's lots of crochet stuff, lots of business stuff. I've been going to the Crochet Business Summit, which is a free online event all week. Tomorrow's the last day, the implementation day. We've had presentations on various subjects for the past 4 days, and I've learned so much. Like I'm excited to put all this into practice. Well, not all of it, but like there's a lot that I can take away. And I've been doing some networking, making friends, which is awesome. I'm part of what I'm trying to do is just like show up and be myself. And I've noticed that when I'm myself and I'm not feeling beaten down by circumstances or whatever, I have this inner light that seems to shine through, and people notice that. It's like this sparkle and charm that I can suddenly bring, and it feels really authentic to me. So, and it's fun being myself, and people like that, and I'm like, wow, that's cool. And even though I'm taking care not to self-promote, and unless I know that it's okay. But sometimes I'll just post a picture of like, oh, here's a project I just finished. I want people to know my name and face and the type of things that I do. So it's partly about creating that memorability, brand recognition, I guess. So, and I want to do that in a like a genuine way, but also like, you know, um, speaking of business, I have um there's a slight change in my um journey of being a client of my local small business organization. I'm in this episode. I'm not going to name names because I just don't really want to, given what I'm going to say. It's mostly positive, but I did have to contact them about some issues I had with someone I had previously spoken very highly of, who did help me a lot, and I liked and respected them a lot, which is why it was very difficult to have to contact the org and say, hey, this is happening and I'm not cool with it, so I either need to be paired up with someone else or I have to leave and not be a client. And the thing that was happening was this person kept misgendering me. And on 4 separate occasions, I said, oh, it would happen that I'd be, then I say, oh, by the way, I'm a guy, or my pronouns are he, him, his. And I tried to be like polite and casual about it, as I always do, but it just kept happening, and I have no idea if it was on purpose or not. I'm not going to say that, but at the very least, I feel like if one of my clients was telling me something over and over that was clearly important enough for them to tell me on 4 separate occasions, even if I didn't understand what it was or why it was important, I would try to make sure that I understood. Like that just seems like the reasonable thing to do. So I told them, like, you know, if this person, I can't accept business advice from someone who isn't listening to me, and if they can't listen to me about my pronouns, are they going to listen to me about my other goals? So they had a very good response. I'm very pleased with the quick and like what's the word, more than adequate response that the organization gave me. They let me know that they were taking it seriously, and they wanted to pair me up with someone else who has been awesome so far. And then the nice thing is that even aside from like the issue of basic respect and human rights and you know using someone's pronouns, like aside from that, I feel like this person is kind of more on the wavelength of the type of audience I'm looking for, or the marketing I'm trying to do, and has had the ideas that I feel like I can use to move forward. Sometimes, like, it's not that someone is bad at what they do, it's just that they're in a very different sphere than you, so they can't give as much advice beyond just the basics, if that makes sense. But so I'm looking forward to working with this new person, and that's what I wanted to say about that. Yeah, it's really exciting with everything I'm learning with the Crochet Business Summit. So I did mention a couple of the wearable patterns I'm working on, including the sacred moment pattern. I might wait on showing those till next time because I feel like there's just so much, and this episode is already, well, with editing it probably won't be quite 40 minutes at this point, but you know, I don't want to have it go too long because I have 3 YouTube channels now. And I'm planning to go live on Saturday and Sunday. It'll probably have happened by the time this goes up, but hopefully it went well. On my Thornwing Crochet channel, I'm planning to have a weekly Saturday and Sunday live brunch crochet with me type of thing. That'll be 11 a.m. Pacific time, because I figure that way I can use the fact that I'm in an earlier time zone than most people, and that way it can. So like if I tried to do it late at night, it would be in the middle of the night for most people. So lives don't really work then. But I figured, with a live, you don't really have to worry about commotion happening as much as with filming. So I think that it'll be fine, and that'll be a good way to build my community and have videos go up on that channel more often than I could if I were just trying to purely do ones that I have to edit. And the reason I wanted to do it on Saturday and Sunday, maybe not every Saturday and Sunday, but I want it to be a fairly regular thing, is because I want some good associations on those days. I grew up evangelical fundy, and I realized that there's probably a reason why I get kind of down on weekends, because of the stuff that happened on weekends for years. Just being in a bad church. But so yeah, we can have some positive, spooky, queer crochet happening over there, and brunch is the gayest meal. So I was like, yeah, it can be brunch, and that way it doesn't conflict with any other lives that I know of. I'm sure there are lives happening all the time, but yeah. Oh yeah, I'm in a pattern testing for Kayla from Alt Knots. Testing the Pride Mesh crop top, which it's a really beautiful pattern. I'm using the Prism Shawl in a Ball from Lion Brand, which is sparkly and rainbow. Really hard to work with, but it came out beautiful. I am done with mine, but I can't show you yet because the pattern isn't out yet, but when it is, I will show you. So I think that's all. Not sure if Banros has anything to say. I'll give him a moment. Thank you. And thanks for hanging out with me, and let's dance again at the next midnight.